All right, Nick, let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, reigning Super Bowl champions. We're legally obligated to say that for the rest of the season. They have had a lot of interesting news come out lately. When you see a lot of teams, we talked about this earlier today. Some teams zig, other teams zag. Some teams go heavy into the free agency, sign a ton of new talent, add a ton of pieces around the ball. Some teams like to focus and really get excited about the guys they already have. And that's kind of the story that we have about the Chiefs today. Some homegrown talent they're really looking forward to, Nick.
Yeah, Miles, I think Chiefs fans will be really excited to hear these reports about some young guys continuing to develop for the Chiefs roster, potentially offsetting any issues in free agency. But before we get into that report, Chiefs fans, we want to hear from you guys, as we always love to, in the comment section below. But we're throwing a curveball at you today. Obviously, the Chiefs have an all-time great starting quarterback right now in Mahomes. But we want to hear from you. Give us who you think the greatest Chiefs backup quarterback of all time is. There's a lot of interesting names to float around. We're really interested to hear what you guys think is the greatest backup quarterback in Chiefs history. But all right, Miles, what you got? What's the latest out of Kansas City?
Yeah, Nick. So there's a lot of interesting stuff coming out of Kansas City. This is going to be a two-parter nonetheless. And let's start off with part one. The first player of the Chiefs that is getting better, getting, honing their skills, so to speak. And Tamba Hali, legendary Chiefs player, legendary pass rush specialist type of guy. He tweeted this out. He said, 6 a.m. hanging out much like us this morning with Super Bowl winner Kansas City Chiefs defensive end George Karlaftis and black belt master Dave Smar, sharpening techniques, Nick. Now, this is a very interesting post. There's a video that goes along with it, so can't really show that part, but if you go check out Tamba Hali on Twitter, it shows the video of them working jiu-jitsu and grappling together. And this is something that Holly says in the video when he's narrating it, is really helped him hone his pass rush game, learning the leverage, learning the arm control, the pass buys, all of that kind of stuff that you would learn in a combat sport like jiu-jitsu. And he and Karlaftis have been working on this together. So first off, Nick, I think it's cool the legendary Chiefs guy like Tamba Hali sees the promise in a young guy like Karlaftis, and they are already working together, doing all kinds of out-of-the-box type of stuff to try to hone Karlaftis' skills. Karlaftis wants to be the best pass rusher he can be, and that's something to get excited about, Nick. But the second part of this two-parter here is that Patrick Mahomes has shared on Instagram a video of him already throwing some balls to the wide receiver group, Nick. And I think there's some really interesting parts of this that we need to get talking about exactly who is there. So Patrick Mahomes shared on Instagram that he is throwing to wide receiver Marquez Valdes-Scantling at the TCU indoor practice facility in Fort Worth, Texas. It's not the first time they've been down in Texas for off-season work, but Valdes-Scantling is not the only receiver out with Mahomes. He has been joined by second-year receivers Sky Moore, Justin Ross, Jerron Ely, and Emir Smith-Marset. I don't know if I pronounced his first name correctly or not, Nick, but what do you think about that, Nick? That's a whole nother ball wax. Mahomes already getting out with these young guys throwing the ball around a little bit.
So I think last offseason we did a story about this, about what a great job as a leader as Andy Reid, his ability to delegate and allow players to go out and work on their craft outside of the structure of the franchise. A lot of teams don't do that. A lot of teams really want guys to be in the facility, kind of following their own strength and conditioning and workout programs as they look to get forward to the season and training camp and mini camp and all that kind of stuff. Andy Reid kind of takes the opposite approach. I think it's really smart. It's obviously been extremely effective. But I want to circle back to some two young guys, and specifically one young guy specifically. How about Justin Ross? You talk about a guy when the Chiefs picked him up as an undrafted free agent last year. Obviously, the injuries have kind of derailed him. He has an unbelievable bevy of physical tools. His ability to win 50-50 balls, his size, strength, and athleticism was absolutely unbelievable at Clemson. If he can just find a way to get past the injuries, and he's had a run of terrible injury luck, big fan of Justin Ross, hope he's able to overcome it. This guy could be a dynamic weapon for Pat Mahomes in this Chiefs offense. And the fact that he's catching balls from Mahomes and getting active with guys like Sky Moore, who is another guy that the Chiefs are reportedly hoping to elevate going into this next season, would be huge for this Chiefs teams going forward. And Karlaftis, throw him in that group. He's a high motor, high energy guy. Obviously has a lot of physical tools, working on his fine-tuning his craft with Tamba Hali. I love that as well, because one of the things when you look at one of the reasons the Chiefs are so successful is they find a way to get these young, talented players to play at basically the peak level of their potential and they're always incredibly cheap. I ran the numbers real quick while you were talking, Miles. If you look at the combined cap hits between Justin Ross, Sky Moore, and George Karlaftis going to next season, it's less than $5 million. I think it's about 4.8, 4.9 million bucks if I did my math right at the top of my head. If you think about that from that perspective, the Chiefs basically are developing their guys internally, allowing them to grow into quality players instead of spending multiples of 5 million, instead of spending 10, 15, 20 million on veteran players, overpaying for them and maybe getting one defensive end instead of allowing Karlaftis to grow, or getting one wide receiver instead of letting Justin Ross and Sky Moore to grow. And I think that's one of the real secrets behind the Chiefs franchise success, the success the Chiefs franchise has had the past few years, is obviously Mahomes and Andy Reid are really smart, and Mahomes is incredibly talented. But the fact that they focus so much on drafting and developing and allow these guys to go about it almost their own way, to allow them to fine-tune their craft by working with other greats, receivers with Mahomes, Karlaftis with Ali here, to me shows that this is a team that really knows that they have to rely on these young guys and are allowing them to do it their own way and continue to get better. Because if the Chiefs continue to have young guys step up, like the Chiefs secondary specifically did last season, this is a team that's not going anywhere, right? Everyone has talked about, oh, the cap hits, the salary caps eventually come back to bite them. Not if you have three young, talented guys and more of Ross and Karlaftis playing for the team in 2023 for a combined salary cap hit of a little less than $5 million. It doesn't, you can pay Mahomes $150 million a year. It doesn't matter when you've got good quality players at that cheap of a discount. And it's exactly what the Chiefs are going to get with the way they're developing or allowing these guys to develop. I think the Chiefs continue to be the model franchise in the NFL with how they're doing things like this.